Hi guys, Lefty here, and I'm going to bring you two different reviews today. The first one will be of the new Blade Runner movie, and this one's going to be rather short because I don't want to spoil anything. I do want you to see this movie. Despite about some of the things I'm going to say, I really want you to see this movie because if a lot of people see this movie and it's very popular, they'll do another one, and maybe some of the issues I'm having with this they'll fix and do better in the next one. With that being said, Blade Runner, the new one, it is amazing and yet terrible. And the terribleness has nothing to do with the actors, the action, the story, any of it. It has to do with the directing. Now, let me clarify and go on by first talking about a lot of what was good. The story is amazing. The story is deep. It fits the world perfectly. It builds more on what's already been done. So, story-wise, it is a great sequel to something that came out how many years ago? 20, 30? Jesus goddamn Christ. You don't see that. I was afraid because of all the build-up and the hype for this with the occult following and the popularity of the first one that it's such a die-hard classic that there is no way you can make an appropriate sequel. I was wrong. I was majorly wrong. This was really well done. The story worked. You were into it the entire time, except for that certain parts that I can't really get into at this particular moment. Next was the acting. Everyone did a good job. There was no shortage of well done scenes with what I would say really in-depth acting. You had Ryan Gosling, who is the focus of the entire movie, and even though he's supposed to be this emotionless-like character, I mean, he obviously has emotion, but he's supposed to try to be deadpan, be controlled, repressed the entire time, and he conveys both. His whatever emotion he's experiencing and feeling while being in that monotone, repressed state. He does a very good job of this. This was really well done. Harrison Ford, when he comes in the movie, really great. All the other characters, I would love to really go into, but if I go into them too much, or hell, some of them at all, it could very well spoil certain things. And like I said, I do want you to see this movie, so I'm not going to spoil much. So the acting was well done. Action sequences, great. They are typical action sequences. There's shooting, some explosions, some fighting, but it all falls in line to things we've seen before in Blade Runner. It has a good pace during the action sequences, and you get to feel the suspense, what the people are thinking, what's going on in that particular moment. It's not really fast, flashy, massive explosions going off left and right, where you're kind of lost in what's going on and just watching the pretty lights. Visually, this movie is amazing. It followed suit of its predecessor, and once again expanded on it. It did a lot of the same stuff, but it did it with today's graphics and today's technology, so it looked so much better. So we have good story, good action, good characters, good visuals. How can this be terrible? And I mentioned it before when I was talking about action. Pacing. This is almost a 3-hour movie. Now, I've watched 3-hour movies in the past, and the length has not bothered me. This time it did. Because whoever was directing, I didn't look up the name because I didn't want to be judgmental of their next work, but they failed here. They wanted things to be drawn out. They wanted to convey as much emotion as possible in every individual shot. And as much as I like and appreciate that to a degree, if you're taking 90 seconds of a character standing there pretty much doing nothing, trying to convey some deeper thought, you're wasting time. You're losing your audience. Stop it. When you make that a primary function of your entire movie, there are scenes in between dialogue, in between things, where he's just picking up information for the case he's currently working that take way too long. And then when you get to a big important moment, you're like, yes, finally something's about to happen. Finally something's going to move this story along. We're going to get answers. Something's going to happen. And you know it's going to happen because of what's already, you already know. But it's like the movie knew this and wants to drag out that anticipation for as long as possible. And they lose you again. There's no reason for that. To draw things out that much. There's a difference between suspense and boredom. I can't give a negative thing about what a lot of them... I can't say anything negative about the actors, the story, how it looked. I should be giving this a 10 out of 10 rating. I should be demanding you to go see this. But I can't. And you'd think with this just one thing out of everything else being done incorrectly, I should give it a 9 out of 10 because everything else was so great. I can't do that either. Because this one thing affects everything else. You have great character development. You have great story. You have all this, and would get you so immersed that you wouldn't notice the run length because you were just having that much of a good time with it. But because it's paced, you lose a little something out of all those other things. They're great, well done. You can't say anything negative about any of it. And then that happens, and it just... Yeah, well, that was good. That was really good. Can we move on? Sure. All right. When's this movie end? You never want that feeling in your audience, and this movie seemed to bend over backwards to give you that. So, yeah, like I said, this is going to be a short one. I'm going to give it an unfortunate 4 out of 10. Everything is so good that it should be a damn near perfect movie. But this one thing affects everything else so strongly that it loses me. I'm sorry. It makes it tragic to hit so many good points, to be so well done, and have it taken away because of one person's direction. It hurts. It hurts. This should be the new standard for sci-fi, such as what Blade Runner eventually became. Blade Runner in the original did lukewarm in the films, got a cult following, and then people realized how good it was. This won't happen with this movie because it's rock solid to begin with. And it's, from what I saw on Rotten Tomatoes, getting great reviews. But give it 2-3 months after the movie comes out of theaters, and not a lot of people will be talking about it. Not a lot of people will be remembering it, because it will be such a long, drawn-out thing. Like, I watched that movie last night. I love the characters. I love the story. I love everything. I was paying attention to every detail I could. And right now, I can tell you, some of the characters, I can't even remember their names. It's not that they did a bad job or didn't leave an impact. It's just I spent so much of the movie thinking, can we move this along, that it took me out of my immersion, and I started losing things. Maybe maybe with a new, I don't want to say director's cut, because in my opinion, the director's one who did this. Maybe when they come out on DVD, they'll have a better version, and I'll give you another review if that happens, but right now, it's a disappointing, tragic 4 out of 10. But I still want you to go see it, because I want them to make another one with a new director and keep this going, because this is a really good story. This is a really, really interesting world. I want to see more of it. Alright, guys. Have a good day.